My lecture is about calligraphy logo, but it's important for me to say many different important things that I think about the logo and writing. I'm just a calligrapher, not a speaker, sorry. First of all, the shape of the letter and signs for me communicate their emotional content before the verbal content. As I know, use to my students, for example, the signal in the street stop. You stop the car before read the letters stop, S-T-O-P, because you know before the image of the letter than the letter. That is, for me, is very important in logotype. Second, the calligraphy logo allows the calligrapher to manipulate letters in infinite way. We calligrapher, we can manipulate letters in infinitive way. But the calligrapher have to solve a big problem. That is the balance between the readability and expressiveness of the letter. It's important to be read and expressive at the same time. That's the second. Then the scanner is the link between my hand when I do calligraphy by hand and the digital and the computer. This seems very simple things, but it's important because the scanner is the tool, the box that is the link between, is the means between my hands and the computer. And then I continue to manipulate the letters. Fourth, the calligraphy logo for me is unique and impossible to make to alike. It's impossible to repeat the same logo, the same letters, as also is the client asking me to repeat similar things, that is impossible. Tools. I use the calligraphy, I use classical calligraphy, metal nibs, brushes, of course, tools, contemporary, but also automatic pen and contemporary tools. But also self-made. Sometimes I use self-made instruments like with the woods, corks, tin, anything that I need to leave some mark and as interesting thing, expressive sign. So the Italian italic chancery is called simply italic, is the main script that the calligrapher used by hand because the chancery, the italic, is very versatile, endless, and endless possibilities and variation to do with these letters because it's cursive writing. This is the first logo, print. I did, and this is a perfect example for me how the meanings of the word is perfect perfectly, for me, it's perfectly expressed by the rhythm of the letter. You see that the rhythm is open and compressed, and narrow and compressed and open. There are many variations of the same logo, because when a client asked me a logo, I used to make more samples, more variation to choose. It is interesting to see here the second logo from the top is made by an ancient script, so is a capital letter, and is the less efficient to express the meanings of the word for me. It's better to use italic. I can use the reading, and you see many variations. Another logo for t-shirts, I did the scripta, and also here, even here there is a trace of the rhythm that the letters want to express the meaning of the word. Here I used around 10 nib, and Polo Tiburtino is it's an archaeological museum complex located just out of Rome, and involves the Niene reader is a reader, the museum. For this reason, this logo required the presence of an element of represent the water. So I used the brush, a flat brush, to make more strokes to give the idea of the water. And I used the P for polo, the first letter, to give the idea of the water, the symbol of the polo, of the water. So you have on the bottom different P, just present variations to the client. Then I used the properly logo Polo Tiburtino in two versions. In the top, always still the italic variation, personal variation. And on the bottom there is old ancient Roman capital, because it's close to Rome, of course. This is the element that I used then to compose more variation of the logo. You see, for a selection, because I picked maybe 15 or 30 variations for this logo, but all with the same elements. So the water and the logo Polo Tiburtino in different variation. And the idea of the water given by the stroke, simply by the stroke. Or by the letter P, other four versions. And there are different combination with the symbol of the water, the river. Adding, I added a square to give more structure to the logo, because it was a little bit unstructured. So they chosen on your left hand side on the bottom. Another version of the logo with the capital is Pasta Beach, an Italian restaurant in Boston. And the restaurant is by the sea, so there are many palms on the Boston beach. So they asked me to use the palm. I did the palm with a Chinese brush in calligraphy way, of course. And the name of the restaurant, Pasta Beach, is in italic too. Then I used two boats element to compose the this is only one version. I did many versions, but this is the version that is used for the restaurant. Kutsai is a singer from Zimbabwe. She composed, plays, and sings Afro-contemporary jazz music. So for the logo, I thought sometimes something sparkling, something fresh and young, like the music and the singer. For that reason, I used always a personal version of italic, but I used the splashes of the ink. You see the splashes of the ink that normally happen when the stroke made with the nib, with the metal nib. But I erase by Photoshop. And in that case, I leave the spark, the splashes, because I decide to, because they give the idea of something sparkling, bubbly of the freshness of Kutsai, the singer. The first version, this is the second version. And without bubbling, and okay, that doesn't happen. And third versions, you see the rhythm is changed, and I use another nib, and the K, the capital letter, seems normal lowercase letter. I used a nib for copper plate in a gestural way. So they choose thirds, and you see on the top the color, album color underneath of the album. Russian chocolate. I like chocolate. Karpunov. The first time I used the Cyrillic letter which in italic ways. So I checked on my book, alphabet book, how to transform the italic in the Cyrillic letters in italic. I wrote several times because to find the rhythm is difficult when you don't know the language. So it was. The client asked me the logo like a signature because it's a name. So there is, I don't like this kind of logo with the underline, but sometimes you have to do something that you don't like. And other two versions, you can read it. Yeah. So Cascina di Corte is a farm code as an hotel, as a big project. As an ancient building, as an hotel is an ancient building of the 17th century, transformed in a hotel, but with the modern elements in the restoration. The logos is supposed to represent the ancient and the modern times. So I thought to see the C of the Cascina di Corte, the first letters, two letters, one modern and one more traditional. So at your right hand side you see different C's, and then the combination in bigger, the combination of the two C's that I used for the logo, with a Chinese brush, yes, the bigger, and classical copper plate C's. And of course on the top, the Cascina di Corte logo with very classical, almost classical italic. This is the logo, and then it was very interesting because the evolution of the logo and everything related to the signage and outside and inside of the hotel made with the large brushes on the facade. So I used the logo for outside of the hotel. So I climbed on the wall to write the big name of the hotel. And inside the hotel, I work directly on the walls in like art way along the stairs of the hotel inside. Yeah, that's another project. I work with Peter Greenaway, you know, probably. He's a bright British artist and film director. And I collaborated with him for a project of a video art installation where the calligraphy interacts in italic script, interact with the images of the actors. This is only the title of the project of Peter Greenaway's project was Peopling the Palaces. And this is the title of the project. And then I wrote 100, because you know Peter Greenaway, 100 different names. This is only a selection of 4 names. Then Peter Greenaway used the calligraphy for the video, and was projected on the facade of the Royal Castle in Turin, where I live. Some other images of the projection. And finally, the catalog of the project with 100 transformations of the text. Capital italic letter, the capital letter of the italic. We are in the 15th century. So. LA is a cultural association, and the combination of 2 letters is called monogram. So 2 versions of the LA, and then used for the logo. 4 versions. You have 4 versions with 2 LA, and I given structure with the triangle for give more structure to and the rectangular to the logo. Something about with the Capitalis Rustica is a version of the letter Roman Capitalis letter of 5th century, and this Fioritamente is a floral design enterprise. That is strange because the logo started in a strange way, because the logo was born from an artwork that on canvas that I made before for the enterprise. So with Photoshop, I take the element for the logo, Fioritamente, the name, in Rustica, Capitalis Rustica, but personalized, and the leaf, one leaf, you see the leaf here, and the logo on the bottom. And then I composed different versions of the logo. 3 versions. Some application of the logo with the letter, with another version. Anshal, we are on 13th century. Sorry, yeah, 13th century. It's a big project with the winery. The history of the winery is linked in some way to a saint, who lived in the 13th century. So the figure of the saint had to be part of the logo. The use of Anshal is Anshal script, which have been modernized and personalized, giving more energy to the idea of ancient and modern, because the winery is asked me to something modern and contemporary when ancient, because the science. So I composed the logo. This is 4 versions with the Anshal script in personalized way, and the figure of the saint. This is the logo and label too for the wine, good wine. They paid me wine, in fact. And the other 4 versions of the label and the logo. And packaging and the label of the wine and so on. Yeah, this is a selection because there's many images about. Other, the same winery but with other labels, where I added other capital letters. You see the R, the C, and the handy wall way. They are something very crazy people, the winery owner. So that the project involved in after the logo, I did some interior design intervention on the wall using the logo. You see on the winery shop there is, I did directly on the wall with the big brushes, I repeat the logo with, I did some canvas, one canvas with calligraphy for the winery shop. Roman capitalis, first century. Just a few words about Roman capitals. I think Roman capital for me is very important style and right, because the beauty and the elegance and the perfection of this writing is still alive. It's very modern after 2000 years. As impossible to go over this beautiful writing. So, as it also is the theme of the workshop I will going to teach next days. Here there is a personal version of capital letter, personalized on the top, and the two big S with the Roman capital with some serif, and the logo for a clothes shop, woman clothes shop. And I composed the logo with the Roman capital and some geometry. The S is repeated by Photoshop, of course. Other two versions, but with italic, to give to the client a contrasted script after the Roman capital. It's important to shock the client sometimes with very different things. And they choosing the worst sometimes. Cora is a center that organizes events and discussion on health themes, interpersonal relation, ecology, psychology. Cora is a Greek word, means place. And I did the two versions in Greek letter. This is another sample where I used non-Latin letters. And the translation on the top, on the bottom of Cora, the word Cora in Latin letter, and the two in contrast. So the Greek letter, cursive, the first on top is made with an eyedropper, and the second version of Greek is with a brush, and of course the Latin letter with the nib, normal nib with the ancient Roman capital. So the combination of those elements given two versions. You see, always I make elements and then I compose several versions for the client. So with the square, the orange square, given the idea of the place, the core, the place where the discussion happens. Other version with the second solution, with the hydrophobic writing, and with the geometry, and one with an ellipse. Yes, just something out of topic, some non-logo, but writing on walls This is only a small selection of calligraphy made, painted directly on wall with big brush. The first the top is a brush like that, 20 centimeter brush, and 8 meter longer. So it's for graphic design, designer art fair in Milano. Then there are many other examples of writing directly on wall with brushes. Some exhibition, art exhibition, where I paint calligraphy directly on walls. Events for Fiat, for example, gala dinner and so on, where I wrote directly on the floor or on the screen, performance, on the floor in apartments. Sorry. There's a capital, you see, still rustica capital on brush, with brush. Just very few images about calligraphy, but for me it's important to show you how the calligraphy became art, or tried to become art. So some works on canvases, where I use different letters. Another work on canvas is a big size. The typography on the bottom is printed, is not handmade. Other non-legible calligraphy, but is something is written. Other canvas. With mix. Well, we have Roman capital letter with brush. Different G. Is a page for graphic design magazine. This is made with the syringe. Splashes with calligraphy. I use it as a tool. This is not Chinese. It's something written on Latin letter, but with the Chinese brush. It's written the same word, sign, in vertical way. It's a big canvas. It's 2 meter by 2 meter. Installation, of course, exhibition. Voila. Спасибо.
Вопросы, пожалуйста, Массимо. Микрофон, пожалуйста, вот сюда, в середину зала. А кто у нас микрофон? Подождите, пожалуйста, не задавайте вопрос. Сейчас я принесу микрофон. Пожалуйста.
Здравствуйте, спасибо большое за демонстрацию ваших прекрасных работ. Вопрос такой. Понятно, что во время создания вот этих каллиграфических форм вы примерно представляете, куда они пойдут, там логотип вот, книги или упаковки, но в жизни как бы разные ситуации бывают. Вот скажите, пожалуйста, как такие формы, обладающие очень тонкими элементами или отдельными пятнами, вот как брызги, вот какими-то такими фактурными, переносят разное масштабирование и печать на разных поверхностях?
Можете зал перевести? Пожалуйста, переведите. Я просто достаточно коряво говорю.
You mean the size of calligraphy?
Okay, it's about different sizes when you print on different types of paper and maybe on wall, on some plastic. This thing with technologies. How can you scale the things? How can you make it very small for kind of business card and very big for some wall?
It depends how the client. It depends how the client asks me. For the logo, I work in very small size because I use metal nib sometimes or brushes for the logo. But for the big project, I use big size directly on the wall and not sketch before. I answer you. What is the question? Is it okay?
Maybe I want to ask you about technology side of the project, how this form can live by printing in different subjects and zooming. If you create it at one size and maybe there are some problems and it is can be used in different sizes. Yes, not when you are creating it, but when it happens, how to live in such forms.
Yeah, maybe I understand. I used to vectorize the logo. I vectorized the logo, and then for big project, yeah, I used to vectorize the logo. That's the yeah, that. Yeah. Probably that.
Maybe you will work also something where when you scale it.
If I use only JPEG or Photoshop is not permitted to enlarge in big scale, of course. But if the client asks me bigger for bigger project, I have to vectorize, of course.
Еще вопросы есть? Вот сюда, пожалуйста, в центр зала.
Добрый вечер, Массимо. Благодарю в первую очередь за интересную лекцию, мне лично близкую. И у меня к тебе два вопроса. Первый – это насколько вообще художник, каллиграф, да, в создании логотипов должен следить своему почерку, должен ли каллиграф, дизайнер логотипов, должен обладать своим почерком, или же он должен именно подстраиваться в контекст какого-то задания. Ну, я вот сейчас по твоим работам вижу, что у тебя есть конкретный почерк, но очевидно, что не каждую задачу, не каждый контекст можно трактовать каким-то своим почерком. Это первый вопрос. И второй вопрос. На мой взгляд, шрифтовая форма довольно самодостаточного выражения, и насколько обосновано использование дополнительных элементов, таких как знаки, цвета и какие-то, может быть, абстрактные формы. Благодарю.
Understand the second answer. Just only the second question. Could you repeat the second question, please?
Насколько для дизайнера каллиграфа в логотипах важно иметь свой почерк, или же нужно обладать какой-то полистилем каким-то, чтобы выразить ту или иную задачу, тот или иной контекст? В общем, важен ли стиль в почерке для дизайнера логотипа?
Или каллиграф должен уметь писать по-разному?
Да. На субъективный взгляд Массимо.
Yeah. When a calligrapher studied all the writing, handwriting as italic, and after it personalized the way to interpret, make an interpretation of the italic, for example, is personal. And this is the difference between a calligrapher and another. So, for example, for a logo, but the skillness of the calligrapher is to interpret the italic, for example, in many different ways, not only one way. You understand? So I have my personal style, of course, because I'm Massimo, you're another person. But when I design a logo, I try to find very different way to interpret the italic, the read, by the shape of the letter, transform the letter, to use another tools, another instrument. So you have to see in another way your personal knowledge, your personal interpretation, and that's the problem of the calligrapher. That is sometimes repeat the same things and became personal writing. Is not the right way, but it is to find different ways of the same style. You see, for example, using another tools or and to see the letters in opposite side. So there are many experience that you can do with the same italic, for example, or the letter, capital letter. Is it okay?
Массимо, вы продемонстрировали очень свежую, энергичную, взрослую каллиграфию. У русских каллиграфов сразу возникло желание, чтобы вы поделились какими-то советами по, во-первых, выбору инструмента, по выбору поверхности, бумаги, прочим материалам. Возможно ли нам увидеть это на вашем сайте в дальнейшем? Хотя бы в том небольшом объеме, который не раскрыл бы все ваши профессиональные секреты, но позволил нам что-то подчеркнуть из вашего опыта. Спасибо.
How many times? 1 minute. Yes, I have on my website. I have 2 videos that show something about you ask me. The problem is if you ask me for the logo, is a question, is a way. If you ask me for the artwork, is another word. I use tools and support, canvas or woods or walls or anything I need. I use the finger, I use the syringe, I use dripping color, I use not whatever I need at the moment to express what I need for in the text. There is something that suggests me which tools I use in the context of the work, because it's still important. It's also in my work there is not legible letter. It's important for me the text and the meanings of the text. Okay?
Друзья, те, кто записался на графический интенсив Массимо, в понедельник мы ждем вас в Институте бизнеса и дизайна по адресу Потапов, переулок, дом 9, 10:30.